Well, it's a very good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening to you, wherever you are listening to this Coaching Cafe. Welcome to the Coaching Cafe. My name is Natalie Ashdown from Open Door Coaching, and I am joined by the fabulous Bridget Calvert. Hello, Bridget.
Hello there, Natalie. How are you?
Great, thank you. We've just been getting
Good.
the weather report from all around the world, from Los
Mhm.
Angeles, Tokyo, Wellington, down the road in Sydney, over in Perth, all around the world. And Japan. So wonderful for everyone joining us today, either live or on your favorite streaming service. Today, we're looking at coaching in action. We are looking at MCC level coaching, and we're going to be looking at the second part of the coaching demonstration. So we have on our blog available for you part one, and now we're going to pick up part two of our coaching demonstration. Before we begin, let's acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands on which we all meet today, and their continuing connection to the land, the waters, the communities of Australia, and the lands from all around the world which you're joining us. We always love to hear where you're joining us from. We pay our respects to them, to elders past, present, and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. So our agenda for today, as I mentioned, is to listen to coaching in action, particularly to an MCC recording, the second part of our coaching recording. We're going to listen together, and then we're going to debrief the coaching session once we've listened to the recording. And if you are new to the community, welcome. We are all about creating a community, having shared learning experiences together, and of course, having thought-provoking conversations like we're having today together. You can feel free to interact with us in the chat box if you like. And of course, if you are a regular, welcome. You know we love to come together with you at this time, or perhaps you have a regular streaming time that you're listening to us. It's wonderful to have you on board with us. Of course, if you are after your ICF CCEs, we have those available to you at the end of the session. So please feel free to interact with us in the chat box if you have any questions at all. Rightio. So previously on our coaching demonstration, we were listening out for the core competencies number 3, establishing and maintaining agreement. We were listening to the coach core competency number 4, cultivates trust and safety. Listening to the coach around core competency number 6, listens actively. And 7, evokes awareness. And in the coaching conversation, the coach was using the very curious, exploring questions to try to understand why is this a challenge for the client. And we're talking about not just what the client wants to do, but who the client wants to be, who they want to become as a leader potentially throughout this process. And we heard the coach doing an amazing job to really hold the space for the client and allow the client to explore under the surface. In doing so, in cultivating that trust and safety, the coach allowed the client to easily share their fears, the fears of the unknown and the known, and tap into the self-talk and the story they were telling themselves. All of those kind of things were drawn out by the active listening, the trust and the safety that the coach had actually shared. The coach is our very own fabulous Bridget Calvert. It is an MCC level recording, and I am almost emotional, but hugely over the moon to share with you that since we met last, Bridget has actually passed her MCC, the knowledge test. And so she is Australia and possibly the world's newest MCC coach. So
Thank
I
you.
know, we can just pause for a minute. I feel so emotional and so proud and excited for you. Absolutely. I need to
Thank
listen
you,
to the recording
everyone.
to get my act together. And so we knew that this recording was an MCC recording, but we had to wait to tell you about Bridget passing the MCC exam. So that has happened since we saw you last, which is great. And
That's
Bridget,
great.
you
Thank
can
you.
soak up all the congratulations coming.
Absolutely. I can see them all coming through. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. So with that, we are listening to Australia and the world's brand new latest MCC coach. We already knew it was a recording that had been approved as MCC through the International Coach Federation, but now we get to listen to it with that new lens as well. So Here we go. We won't talk during the recording. We're going to pick it up just as the coach, our MCC coach, says, what rules do you have? What rules have you set for yourself that allows this for you to be a challenge for yourself? It's a really powerful question. It builds on all the powerful questions that Bridget had already asked during the first half of the conversation. And now, because of that trust and safety that's been built, it's a huge moment of evoking awareness for the client. And it's this point at which we hit clearly into competency 8, facilitating growth for the client. Okay, so without further ado, we'll take our videos off and you can listen. We'll pick it up at that point.
Good morning, Dominique.
Hey, Bridget, how are you? Changing who they are, and it's working side by side with some of these colleagues. So it's sort of, not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about that.
It sounds like that it's not just the fear of the unknown in terms of yourself, but what you do know about the environment in that particular.
Yes. Yes.
Then curious, given that you're currently experiencing an 8, 9 or 10 even, and yet this particular role has been thrown your way for, consideration, and yet you do have some insight around some important factors. So I'm wondering, what rules have you set for yourself that allow this to be a challenge at all?
That's a good question. I think, gosh, this goes to the heart of it for me. I think that I've got to where I've got to by working with good people, and not always, but certainly recently and at the start and then the middle, just some weird experiences, but nothing too traumatic. But I think the rule that I have is that's not for me. Those positions are not for me. I need to stay relatively, I don't know if low's the word, but almost not invisible, but just to stay below the radar. It's not something I'm very comfortable to do, to sit into a different position where there's a lot of focus. So I think the rule is stay slightly below the radar, do really good work, but don't kind of stick your head up and move into more senior or more visible roles, because then, when you fall over you fall from a height. So I think that's probably one rule that I'm living by, that I'm not aware that I'm living by so much.
And how do you feel about that rule now that you've expressed it?
It's been quite limiting. And I've always looked at my career as slow and steady. And I think it's been slow and steady because I've always been quite trepidatious around my progress, being quite cautious, low risk adverse, stepping into roles that I know that I can do really well, which is kind of staying slightly below the radar, but then growing really well in the positions, because I, have that mindset of just whatever it is, just work really hard. So this one that's come back a few times, it's almost like a ridiculous conversation to me. I'm just like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you speak to me about that? Because it's taking me out of that comfort zone, I think, where I feel quite safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safety and comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. Safety is hugely, hugely important for me. And I've never been one to play the political game either. I just shy away from that, and I have no time for that. I don't think about how I could make a difference if I'm in a different role to influence that as well, to silence kind of those games, if you like, that are played. So I just stay away from it. Yeah.
So I think you've expressed, I guess, what those internal advisors, I guess, saying to you internally. And I'm wondering, if you were to go to someone that you really respected, you knew you well, what advice would they give you?
They would probably, I'm thinking of the person who's come to me, actually, who knows me well, would probably, have a smile on their face to go, we're having this conversation, and it's the capability just to do it is, it's almost stepping in, making the first step is the hardest thing. And they would probably say, do it. You've got good people around you in this space who are going to support you and help you to be successful. They equally wouldn't push me either. So they wouldn't say just, So I think they would definitely just encourage me to just give it a go in an environment that's relatively secure for me, whilst I learn the bits and pieces and then take it from there.
So I'm wondering, Dominique, reflecting back on our conversation so far, what are you learning?
That I get in my way a lot. And continue to do so, yeah. And I think that's why I brought this today, because I know that I'm getting in my way, and learnt about the rules that I've kind of living by as well. That rule around safety, keep low, work hard, but don't go too far, because the risk is bigger there.
So it does sound like it is an important challenge for you right now, and focus, something that you want to focus on. How will you know when you've been able to overcome this internal chatter and this feeling of wanting to play it safe?
I think for me, it's confidently getting curious about the opportunity and spending time, or this or other, so it could be this or future, and getting really curious about how my experience and my values and my characteristics can make a difference. So rather than looking at an opportunity and go, well, I can't do this and I haven't done that, and this seems really overwhelming to me, it's turning it around into the possibility of, how do I make this work? How does this fit in with what I have to offer? How will it meet my needs? So turning it around to completely to how I'm looking at it at the moment. Moving from why me to, if it is me, then what? Yeah.
So that ability to be confident and curious and look at the possibility and see how it might work for you. Now understanding that idea to move forward, if you were able to do that on a scale from 1 to 10, if you how comfortable you are with that idea, where would you be?
I'd be 7 or 8, I reckon. Yeah, because even saying it feels more powerful. You know, and powerful in the sense of I'm in the driving seat rather than the panic and trying to backpedal as quickly as possible, which is the emotion that I've felt recently was, oh my goodness, how do I get out of this conversation? To putting myself in a driving seat to go, right, this is really interesting. Let's have that conversation. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're already telling yourself something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so moving forward then, how will you now approach this conversation or this opportunity?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking as we're talking that I'm going to go back to this person and have a different conversation. And it's not about, right, I want to be, I'm in it. It's more, let's have that conversation around what it is about this role that what can I bring to this role? And I think it's just more of a fruitful, explorative, exploration around the ins and outs rather than I can't do this and that's something new to me. So that, and I think that's a very different type of conversation. Well, it is completely different to the one I had last week, which was just a straight no.
Sure. Okay. And
yeah.
Now that you're challenging the no and recognising that there could be potential opportunity, I'm wondering, what do you bring, given your experience that you have? What do you bring to a role such as that?
Yeah. For me, it's about knowing people really well and knowing what motivates and engages people and teams, and adding a commercial lens to that. So ultimately, there's always a business to run underneath that. But without really, really good, well-intentioned humans doing the work, there's no business. And a comfort level to have the hard conversation and to ask the awkward questions as well, and whether that's one-on-one or an open forum. So it's I think, and that's over years of different experience, very focused and driven and organized and all of those sort of good business acumen things that sit in the background, but also really good at surrounding myself with people who are very good at what they do to combat the things that I'm not good at as well. So working to everyone's strengths. So yeah, I often talk in the different roles that I've had is you can teach most people most things, but learning how to work with humans sometimes is the hardest part. And sometimes you either have it or you don't, to know what makes people tick. And I know what makes people tick. So for me, I think that's the starting point for most things.
Lovely. It sounds like the obstacle that you raised around yourself getting in your own way, essentially the resource and the support is you and what you bring to people. At the start of this conversation, you were concerned about potentially the environment or some of the people. And it sounds like you do have the skill set and you do have the strength to be able to work in a way that's going to make it a wonderful experience, maybe. What do you think?
It makes me nervous. Yeah, no, it's exciting and nerve-wracking because it's that question you asked around, so what are your values? That was that was quite an imposing question for me. I was just like, oh gosh, this is difficult, because most people just know it because you're in the space and they just know what you do. So talking, sort of articulating it, is a good thing for me to do, and to sit comfortably in that place to go, this is what I do bring, through my years of experience, and owning it, because that's what I tell other people. I said, you just got to own your space. So that was quite a good process for me, just to answer that question. Yeah.
And you mentioned the words excited and nervous, and I'm wondering, if the nerves were there to support you and to be your friend, what would the nerves be telling you?
The nerves would be saying this is a good feeling because it's unknown and it's new. So it's a challenge and you're learning new things, and it's going to be okay. We just pick up and carry on, basically. I think that's what would be happening there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What are the next steps for you then, Dominique?
I'm going to go back and have this conversation with this person, and just explore it with them quite differently to what I did earlier.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I think, thinking about the week, we've got a meeting on Monday. I'll probably do that on Monday. So Monday coming.
What other resources or support do you need?
I think I want to write some thoughts down for myself after the session today, and make some notes around the conversation that we've had, and do some reflection, and then dive into the conversation. I don't think I need to speak to anyone else at this point.
Right. And thinking about our conversation today, where we started and where we are right now, I'm wondering, what stands out for you as being a key learning?
Some of the questions were really pivotal for me, around thinking about the role that I'm playing in my own decisions and in my own life, versus the stories I'm creating about the unknown and what I think could happen. And again, I always say control the controllable. So how I think and feel about that is in my hands and in my control. But I've been, I think, comfortably letting that go because it's more comfortable. So I've probably learned there's a balance for me of feeling comfortable versus the stories I'm creating to keep me away from whatever might be next. So, whatever that looks like.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Dominique, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about now that's going to make this conversation more complete for you?
I think I'm done. All good. Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominique, and thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the conversation.
No, thank you. That was awesome. Thanks so much, Bridget.
Wow, I really wanted the recording to go all the way to the end, because for those of you that maybe are working at the Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching level, you'll hear the MCC coach doing those basics as well towards the end there, in terms of what would you like to have this, what are you learning from the conversation, and what would make this more complete for you. So even though we are building on our skills, you'll still hear an MCC coach do the most important essentials in terms of the ICF core competencies. So if you're like me, you'll listen to this over and over again, because there's so much that we can actually gain from this recording in terms of how Bridget establishes the agreement in the beginning, allows that trust and safety to build throughout the coaching conversation, her listening actively and then giving back the client the insights coming from her words. But truly, if you're like me, you will have written down all of those questions. I've probably listened to this recording 4 or 5 times, and each time I've listened to it with new ears, writing down those questions, because I, even as an MCC myself, can become a better coach by listening to the recording. So it's about evoking awareness and facilitating that client growth. And we really listened to the second half of the recording where, because the trust and safety was already built, it really allowed the space for the coach to bring those incredible evoking awareness questions. Questions like, what rules have you set for yourself that allows this to be a challenge? How do you feel about this rule now that you've expressed it? What have you learned? How will you know that you've been able to overcome the internal chatter? So the evoking awareness, but also very craftfully putting a measurement so that the client has awareness of the measurement as well. And then, of course, drawing on the client's strengths, asking the question in, now that you are you're challenging the no. So now that you yourself are challenging the no that you've had in the past, what do you bring to the situation? So the coach is really drawing on the client's strengths there. And of course, we got those beautiful questions about if if you went to an advisor, what might they say? What stands out for you in terms of the key learning? So these are all opportunities for the coachee to do the work in terms of what they're learning and gaining themselves. So they're my insights that I want to offer. Bridge, what would you also like to offer? And thank you, Brett, for also acknowledging the gentle, the calmness, the empathy, the gentleness and the calmness of asking the questions, meeting the coachee at their level, working with them at a pace and a kind of a tone and a calmness to help the client work through that. Bridge, your insights, having listened to your own MCC recording, what would you like
thanks.
to offer?
Thanks, Nat, and thanks, Brett. Yes, I wrote down, obviously, the questions that you've just highlighted, Nat, I also wrote down too. And I want to also reiterate what you've said about the Certificate 4 questions, because they are splattered. They are our foundation tool. So even if you went to someone that you really respected, what advice might they give you? That comes from our Certificate 4 program. The scaling questions. I'm a big fan of scaling questions. Scaling question around comfort and to gauge where someone's at. The strengths-based question, is it from our Certificate 4 program too? You mentioned all the questions. I've written down exactly the same ones. It was really a lot of core competency 7 around evoking awareness. I think a lot of those questions sort of sat in that space, helping the client to sort of explore new and expanded ways of thinking beyond their current level of thinking there. And what can I add to what you've said? I think you've covered everything there: resources and support, key learnings. A couple of observations were made too, which is also part of that evoking awareness piece, around telling yourself something different and reframing challenge to strength as well was an observation. So yes, so some open questions there, all open questions that evoked awareness. And a little, obviously, with the facilitating client growth moving forward in terms of steps to move forward. That trust and safety, I believe, was there throughout, and that listening actively, allowing the space. So I don't know that I've added anything to what you've said, but I picked up the same as what you did, Nat.
I think the big difference that you'll notice, even in the different coaching conversations we've listened to over the previous couple of weeks as well, is truly how Bridget holds the space without the need to add bits and pieces in. So I'm a little bit more vocal in my coaching. That's like I make a few more noises, I suppose, because that's my natural style. But the truly ability that we've heard to sit in the space and allow the client to explore. The client is really struggling with self-talk, with an opportunity. And Bridget's coaching presence is what I really want to point out here in terms of allowing the client to just explore. And when you could hear when that question landed around what rules have you set for yourself, the client said, oh, Good question. There was a big pause, and the client said, "Well, that goes to the heart of it." So these are the kind of things where potentially, if you're a bit more of an extroverted coach, you might use a little bit more verbal there. But the no verbals and the actual true pause is something that you can really work on. So it's not a bad thing if you're the and the a little bit extra. But what I really had to work on, even though I have my MCC, is doing exactly what Bridget did, still bringing yourself to the conversation so you're not a nobody in the conversation, but really thinking about the use of silence even more. And as Sonali pointed out, thank you, well done. Really helpful to hear how you kept the questions brief and clear. Very nice insight, thank you. Because it's tempted to repeat yourself and to explain the point you've already made. And to convey my point, Sonali is a bit like me, a little bit more verbal. So something for us to all learn about how we can still maintain that presence without the extra.
And I appreciate that, Sonali. I do pick up, though, there was a couple of questions I did repeat or rephrase there. So even at this level, we're always going to be reflecting back on what could I have done differently. I think there were 2 questions there that I repeated, and I listening to it thinking, oh, I ask the question, stay out of the space. I'm always saying it. So there's a couple of things there for me. That's something that I also need to, occasionally pull back on.
Yes, and as we always do, we listen back to the recordings, we think about how we could have done it better, recognizing that in the moment, in the coaching presence there, the coach and the client are working together. So that both of them might not have even picked that up, but on reflection, we're listening back to how we can grow from the conversations as well. So there you have it, everybody. Take the time to listen again and again. Listen for the different competencies as you do that. And could I just also recognise our coachee, Dominique, for her vulnerability and her willingness and permission to allow us to learn, not only from this coaching recording, but from her as a leader. Struggling with different things, and also tapping into her gifts and her strengths as a leader. So we acknowledge Dominique in this process as well. So there you have it, everybody. We have programs coming up towards the end of the year, which we're excited to be delivering to you. Certificate for Workplace and Business Coaching, the Diploma of Leadership Coaching is coming up as well. So contact us for further information. So we are not going to see you next week because we are on a break. The week after, we welcome you back to talk about the newly released ICF core competencies, and there will be a touch of controversy. So there you go. You can join us in 2 weeks' time when we talk about the new ICF core competencies. In the meantime, as we always say, most importantly, enjoy your coaching and enjoy making a difference that you do. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.